I always had this desire to spread wisdom. When I became a monk and got this incredible opportunity to study texts and books that were 5,000 years old, all I could think about was like, how do I make sense of this to someone who has no idea what this is? Being born and raised in London, I was just like, how does this connect to that 18-year-old kid in London that I used to be? How does this connect to that girl who's getting bullied at college? How does this connect to that guy who hates his job? How does this connect to anyone? And so for me, I was always reading all of these incredible texts, 5,000 years old, and going, how do I make that relevant, accessible, and practical to everyone? Because I was seeing huge benefits in my personal life from living those principles, but I knew not everyone was gonna like run off to a mountain and become a monk and live the lifestyle I'd chosen, but I felt I wanted them to experience that. So what I did was I started sharing content online very late. I joined social media in 2014 and in 2016 launched my first video. Before then, I'd been creating content and speaking at universities and schools and companies for a long, long time. So I'd been testing what resonated with people, what connected with them. And then I just decided, I was like, I want this to reach anyone who has a mobile phone. And I read a study that said more people own a mobile phone than a toothbrush. So I was like, if that's the truth, then we need to get it out to everyone. And I thought, what better way than video? So I remember uploading my first video, 3rd Jan 2016 on YouTube, and I had no idea where it would go or how it would do. I think it did okay, and it started off really well. And then I realized it was only doing well because I kept refreshing YouTube and the views kept going up. That doesn't work anymore, by the way. And I just wanted to spread wisdom at the pace people want entertainment. I wanted to make wisdom entertaining, I wanted it to be engaging, and I wanted to feel like you were watching television or watching a movie. It didn't need to feel like a class. And so I started out, and thankfully Arianna Huffington, within 3 months, someone showed her my video at Davos, at the conference, and her team reached out and they said, we'd love for you to create a series of videos for HuffPost. We're not gonna pay you anything, but we'd love to test it out. So I made 4 videos for HuffPost. Those 4 videos did 100 million views. It was the most amount of views they'd ever had. And that overnight kind of had a big effect on my trajectory. And that actually was the smaller end. 2017, I really started focusing on my own content on my own channels and platforms. And things have just been insane since then. But the focus has always been, how do you make this entertaining? How do you make it practical? How do you make it accessible? And how do you make it actionable so that people can actually live it today? I believe that we all have a finite number of breaths and we all get an opportunity to make them count. And there's a beautiful thought by Maya Angelou where she said, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And for me, that's what we've got. All of us have this limited amount of time, and all that's gonna be remembered is how we made people feel. And so for me, my videos are all about how am I making people feel? If I can give people a feel of self-worth, a sense of personal growth, a sense of confidence, a sense of self-esteem, whatever it may be, I wanna use my living time doing that. We all are looking for role models when we're growing up. Like I feel like we all had someone we looked up to. And I was just fortunate, and I have to owe it to fortune and grace that I was so fortunate that when I was 18, one of my role models became a monk. Because my role models were celebrities, CEOs, entrepreneurs, incredible people who were achieving a lot in the world. But when I met him, I got to meet someone who was truly happy. And I think we meet a lot of people who have a lot of money, who have a lot of success at a young age, but you rarely meet someone who's truly happy. And I think everyone who's listening right now or watching will be able to remember a time when they felt they met someone who is happy. And I'm sure that's a rare memory, but it exists. And I was so captivated by that happiness that I felt this person was experiencing that I was like, I want that. You know, and you feel that, like, I always say that it's always the common denominator in the room. If you're in a room with someone who has millions of followers, you'll be like, oh, I want that. And if you're in the room with someone who has a yacht, you'll be like, oh, I want a yacht. And if someone lives in a fancy home, you'll be like, oh, I want a fancy home. Like, we always want what we feel in the room. Like, the person who has the most in the room becomes the most desirable. But for me, I was so fortunate to be in a room where someone was happy, and that became the most desirable thing. And I was just seeing around me, I was aware that I was looking at people around me who had money but were sad, who had the love of everyone in the like relationships, whatever, like the best looking partners, whatever, and they still were sad. And I was just looking around me at 18 and observing that I couldn't meet someone who's really happy apart from this guy. And so it's like, I want that. So I ended up spending all my summer holidays from aged 18 to 22, half of them in bars, steakhouses, and working in the world of finance in London, and the other half living as a monk in India. So I call it my first ever split test, or my A/B test, where I was literally like, I'm gonna live the paradox. Like, I'm gonna go from living up large, like, you know, having fun, having the best relationships, drinking, going out, whatever it is, and I'm gonna compare that to the opposite. And I can totally say, by doing that experiment 4 years later, I was convinced that the experiment of living as a monk was more meaningful, more purposeful, and made me more happy. So I was like, it's a no-brainer. So that's how at an early age, it was just an experiment. And that's why my consistent recommendation to anyone listening is experiment with stuff. Like, try stuff out, go and live it for a week, live it for a weekend. Don't just think about it in your head. Like, get out of your head and get into action. So if I just thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. But getting to experiment with it taught me so much.